Washington. So I'm super excited to introduce Asif Khan. I hope I'm saying that right. Please correct me if I'm not. Okay. And so Asif Khan leads the organization's business development and partnerships efforts and works on program management. Asif has previously worked for the United Nations Foundation in New York and Washington, managing and creating long-term partnerships with companies, foundations, bilaterals, and UN agencies. He also managed the U.S. partnership portfolio for the French aid agency Action contre la Femme. I don't know how to speak French, so I hope I'm saying that right. In North America, East Coast, and Middle East partnerships at the global education nonprofit Room to Read. He has fieldwork experience with the National Commission for Human Development, working in North Pakistan, and has studied and worked in England, Spain, Turkey, and Argentina. Please welcome Asif.
It's really weird to hear about yourself sitting there, but it's like it's one thing when you're writing it down and it's on a website, it's another thing when someone's talking about it. But thank you for that, and it's great to be here. One thing I forgot to mention: the United Nations Foundation. I was the first male women and girls partnerships lead at the UN. Still the only one, so I'm really happy to be in a room full of a lot of women and working on getting back into space on storytelling of women's issues and empowering women and girls to tell their own stories. How many of you like playing games or enjoyed playing games? This could be video games, board games, cell phone games, so a lot of you. And one of the really interesting statistics that I found out when I started working for Games for Change last October is the percentage of gamers now, we would think it's more men and boys than women, right? It's actually 50-50 now. 50% of women are also playing games. This is largely because of smartphones. Women also have smartphones. Smartphones have games. Words with Friends is a game. Candy Crush is a game. So a lot of the games that are being played now are on cell phone, and they're being played by women and girls as well. So it's not just the 19-year-old eating chips and sitting in his basement playing games, the 19-year-old male. It's actually a lot of young women and girls also engaged in the gaming space. Games for Change is an organization that was set up 12 years ago now. We do a lot of different things, but the main thing we do is using games and technology for social impact and for social change. Games are fun, they're entertaining, people like them, kids like them. So how can we harness this positive energy, this fun, entertaining value, and use it for social impact? And while people are playing games, can they learn something as well? Can we change a behavior? Can we do some kind of social change? So that's why Games for Change was set up, and I'll go into a little bit of what we do, and today I'm going to concentrate more on virtual reality and how we're using virtual reality to do a lot of different things, and a lot of them are in the women and girls equity space. Why games? I kind of went over it a little bit, but games is the fastest growing industry in the world since its inception. They constantly evolve. There are different varieties of games, as we all know, but it's a very universal concept as well. I remember playing Sonic the Hedgehog growing up in Pakistan and then living in Connecticut and Massachusetts. It's not that different. You can play a game anywhere in the world, and it's not going to be that different from each other. You can play games with people in different parts of the world, and it doesn't really matter what you look like and what language you speak. The other piece in games is beating the competition on revenue, time, and eyeballs. And the competition is either movies or books, whether you like it or not, and other engaging media, because the time that people spend on games is much higher than the time they spend watching the television or playing sports or doing other activities. It's a $96 billion global industry, and 44% of females, but the number tends to skew higher in the United States, up to 50 sometimes. And the average age is actually 35, so it's not as young as we'd imagine. So the average gamer is actually 35 years old now. That, again, is because of the smartphone, the increase in smartphone usage. And people spend 3 billion hours a week globally playing games. It's also an interactive medium. It speaks to you and you speak back to it. So whatever you're doing, playing the game has something to do with how well you're doing. So it's not just a one-way street, it's two-way communication. And then there's a lot of social impact gaming as well. So Games for Change, when I was at the United Nations Foundation, worked on Half the Sky, which is a fantastic game built on the Facebook platform where you can pick one of 5 women and follow their journey from childhood into adulthood and do all the steps that they do as they do it. So they picked 5 women from different parts of the world, and that game had 3.4 billion unique usage views, and 34% of them were male, which is a pretty high number for such a female-focused game. Life is Strange is another game that was given our Games for Change's award 2 years ago in Most Significant Impact. It's a game around depression and suicidal tendencies, but when you're playing it, it plays like an anime Japanese game, but as you're playing it, you learn about how depression can affect a person, and in the end, you actually learn and take a lot about mental health and issues. So it's a good example of a game that's entertaining, but at the end of it, you actually learned a really good lesson and probably save someone's life. Games for Change is based here in New York. We do a couple of different things, but our main mission is empowering game creators and social innovators to use games to drive change. A couple of ways we do this. We have a festival in New York every summer, so please mark your calendars, June 28th to 30th, where we showcase the best social impact games, VR experiences in the space. And this is a very mixed audience where only 25% of people are from the tech world. The rest are nonprofits, social impact organizations, educators, government agencies who are interested in either using Games for Change or are using Games for Change. My favorite project that we do is our Student Challenge competition. We work in Title I schools, which are the most underfunded public schools in the country, to create little game designers. So we teach teachers how to teach game design to students, middle and high school students. So these kids design social impact games. I'm actually leading a workshop tomorrow for 6 hours in Queens, teaching kids how to make games. And it's the cutest thing in the world where they actually make games and play them and are so impressed that they made these games. And then in the future, we're also exposing them to a completely different industry, which is arguably the most highest paid industry. A lot of these schools in inner cities do not have access to it. So I think that's a really good way of creating that future pipeline and not just making gamers, making game designers. We also incubate new projects through executive production. So if you're a nonprofit that's interested in using game for communication, definitely talk to me. We work with groups all the time. We did a fantastic VR experience with Planned Parenthood where you put on the headset and you're transformed into a 16-year-old girl in Mississippi who's going to a Planned Parenthood to get reproductive health advice, and there's protesters all around the perimeter, and they're chanting things to her, and they're throwing things at her, and you're actually her. So especially for men and boys, it's a very powerful experience that could not have been given if they just read something or saw a video. So Games for Change is now also expanding its mission to include XR. Who knows what XR means? I didn't a few months ago, so it's fine. Exponential reality, but that also makes sense. So it's like Latin X, right? It's like X includes everything. So virtual reality is definitely by and far the most popular of the emerging realities. We've heard about VR. Some of you, who here has tried VR before? So a lot of you, that's great. So XR is pretty much all the R's. So virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, cinematic reality. Gaming and virtual reality go hand in hand, so we figured we're already working on games. How about we also see what XR is doing and what VR can do in this space? And a lot of our gaming studios are also looking at virtual reality. So we figured let's also see what Games for Change can do in this space. We create a new initiative, which I'm leading, called XR for Change. XR has a lot of drawbacks and a lot of positive impact as well. It's obviously more expensive. Not everyone has a virtual reality kit. It averages about $600 to $700. Google is making cheaper ones for $80 to $90. But one of the best things it does is it literally transforms you into someone else. Your reality changes, your experience changes, the way you look, the way you feel changes. So it has huge implications in how behavior change can magnify and transform someone's experience and their mind and then hopefully their actions. VR alone stands to be a $108 billion industry in the next 3 years, and globally, especially in East Asia, is getting tremendous popularity. Another big benefit is the data generation, VR can also study how your brain is reacting to something. So instead of just a one-way street, again, we can find out how people's brains are affected. One really cool example of how VR is being used is as an antidote to anesthesia for children in hospitals. A lot of children are allergic to anesthesia, so now they're using VR to actually do the same effect that anesthesia does to them. That way the kids don't have to have this dangerous drug injected in their bodies, which I think is fantastic. Our president is a woman, Susanna. She wanted to be here, but we have a big event later today, so she couldn't. So she has really been behind using these experiences and making sure that as the VR industry grows, social impact VR grows with it. I know this is the only thing between you and lunch, so I'll skip over this, but this is just to say that XR is on mobile now and VR is on mobile now. So again, what happened with games is not going to happen with VR, that you can be sitting in your room. NYVR, New York Times' VR app is free and is an excellent way to test it out. I definitely recommend getting that. So this is to say that it's going to be much more accessible in the next couple of years. We want to make sure that that rise is combined with positive social impact as well. Again, with VR, it's an interactive medium, and being interactive, as a lot of you know that you work in media, is very important. When you're just talking to someone like I'm doing right now, people get a little disengaged and bored, but when there's a two-way communication stream and the person gets a chance to do something or take actions, the communication is much more important and goes a much farther way. A couple of examples, and I'm going to quickly play testimony for a second for you because it really speaks to this audience. I talked about Across the Line, which is the project out of Planned Parenthood. Testimony is a very important project as well, and we're actually doing an event later tonight showcasing 4 top VR designers and their projects and why they made them and how they made them. So you hear from them, then you have a chance to put on the glasses and test them out. So Testimony was made by Zohar Kafir, and it's a testimony of sexual assault survivors. And when you put on the glasses, you're actually standing in front of the sexual assault survivor, and she's telling you her story first off. So what she's doing with this, it was very well received. Obviously, a hard watch of a very important piece. So now she's put it on web VR, which means you can just go online, type it up, and view it, and you just need very rudimentary Samsung VR glasses, which retail for $80, so it's not super expensive. So she's doing a university tour with a focus on male students. So I think this is a good example of how you can use this super cool technology but actually have some real-world impact and change, especially now when the conversation is increasingly magnified and important. So I'll quickly play this for a little bit so you guys can see what Zohar did.
My name is Selena, and in 2009, I was raped. After my rape, I called 911, and 2 police officers came to my home, and they put me in the back of their police car and drove me to the hospital.
If anything could be changed, what would it be? Through my life experience and through my research, I would say that we need to be able to report sexual assaults online. It shouldn't be up to a police officer to decide whether or not you can report this crime based on how much evidence you have. When I was 14.
So this gives you, and then when you're actually doing this produce, I recommend whenever you have a chance, you should. The woman's actually sitting right in front of you, and when she says police sirens, there's police sirens near you, and you can actually see the lights and the police cars. So you're not obviously there, but it really gives you a really good view and insight into what this woman is feeling. So I just think that like just the fact that it's a 6 minute film, but it's had tremendous results in behavior change, obviously for young men and boys, but also for women to become more active and vocal about these issues, which are obviously very hard issues to talk about. Two other projects, which are a little different. Clouds Over Sidra was made by the United Nations. The United Nations actually has VR experts in most agencies now, so that's a really good example of how a huge, sometimes cumbersome organization is now actively promoting this particular technology. So Clouds Over Sidra is about Syrian refugees fleeing the country and going to different places, and you're actually there with them as they're doing that. So it really creates a huge sense of empathy and action in people. And then Priya Shakti is actually AR. So AR is augmented reality. You'll hear a little bit about it, but augmented basically means it's your own reality with other things on it. So Pokemon Go is a good example of you're in Central Park and you see I forget what they're called, one of the little Pokemon like jumping around. So that's AR. So AR is becoming really popular in classrooms. It's cheaper to produce, and it actually shows the kids where they are right now, and you can put a Roman Colosseum over here as you're learning about it. And if for all of us who studied ancient history, it's much more interesting if you see something in front of you than just a chalkboard in a book. So this summit this year, we'd love for you guys to participate and attend. It's all around XR for Change. Pretty much all the experiences I talked about and more will be presented. You'll get to hear from the speakers and the creators and the designers, and then test everything out. We're super interactive. And there's a lot of big companies, all the big VR companies, which are Facebook, Oculus, HTC, Dell, Google, obviously, all have impact sides and very active impact CSR organizations who are, instead of just giving money, actually giving product and camera people and designers and editors to nonprofits on how they can use this technology to tell their story better. So Google Daydream Impact has a fantastic website. It's a nonprofit. You can apply not just for equipment, but they'll even give you camera people to film with you and to create VR experiences. So you can raise money or create more awareness or communicate to your subscribers, get more people on board, etc. So I advise you to take a look at that. And then Facebook, Oculus, and HTC Vive have similar portals where you can apply as a nonprofit and get the support. Facebook actually, if any of you are in education, the TechStars program gives free VR equipment to schools as well, so students can get a hang of it and kind of see what it's like. So there's a lot that these companies are doing to both promote their products, but also promote proper, responsible usage of these products. And Games for Change has sort of been behind that movement. So that's pretty much it. Definitely follow us on social. We have some good content and knowledge, information exchange about all these technologies. And any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Mm-hmm.
Whereas VR requires a lot of attention, a place or actually ads 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Find ways VR and
Sure, that's a really good question. So VR experiences have traditionally been short. They've been anywhere from 60 to 180 seconds, so 1 to 3 minutes. The trend now is that they're actually getting longer because people actually want longer VR experiences. They're kind of going the short movie route a little bit. So the trend is going the opposite way. However, that's entertainment VR. And if you're like in a space galaxy, like fighting, whatever zombies, like you want something longer than that. However, with the social impact space, when you're talking about sexual assault or refugees, yes, it has to be shorter. No one wants an 18-minute refugee experience, whether we like it or not. So what we're doing is creating bite-sized pieces, pieces that are either 90 seconds or 120 seconds. And yes, there is a technology gap because not everyone have. I don't have a VR headset in my house, but people do. A lot of people do, and then there's a lot of spaces where you can actually use the technology. So Google has a pop-up in Flatiron when you can just go and use technology. And then schools are getting them as well. So I think the biggest thing is to get them into schools. So schools actually, not a lot, but some schools actually do have a tech hardware budget, and they are spending it on VR. And then the other thing is Samsung and Google have kind of disrupted the market and created Daydream and Cardboard and Samsung Gear, which are I think $60 to $70, and you just put your cell phone in them. Yeah. So there is, movement, and Facebook is looking at how do we put VR on the platform, because Facebook has, 3-point-something billion followers. So that is happening, but you're very right. I think, but the other thing is that VR just creates that attention span. Once you've done one VR experience, you're hooked a little bit, and you want to continue doing more. But with social impact, VR has to be smaller, has to be shorter, and it has to kind of grip you. So, good question. So VR, we haven't had, we are looking into developing products for kids with autism, because this is extremely useful for them, and there is research done, and there are studies happening right now in Chicago and Seattle, both the universities there, University of Washington and U Chicago, on using VR to not cure autism, but kind of make experiences for them that are for autistic children. So that is happening, and we are behind that a little bit. We work across New York in 20 schools. So it's 4 schools in every borough. So we're across Manhattan, obviously, but the biggest concentration of our work is right now in Los Angeles. So we're scaling across LA, which is the second biggest school district in the country. And then we're also in Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and Detroit. And then we're in 5 more cities next year. This is our student gaming program. So it's 20 schools per city, and the schools are chosen by the city's education system. So they choose schools which are tech capable, which have teachers who are interested and able, and who are Title I funded and have free lunch. So so we have those sort of boxes that need to be checked. And once they are, they choose 20 schools just because of staff and budget restrictions. We'd love to do more than that, but 20 seems to work for us right now. Yeah, please.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you just point a couple of resources to learn more about XR?
Definitely. If you go to our website and go to the XR for Change page, we have a portal list of really good XR social impact groups, and then I'll also give you my card. We also have an email that's being developed monthly on XR for social impact, so follow up with that as well. Thank you, everyone.